Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. What does access look like in higher education? What does access in higher education look like? So I wanted to introduce myself. We're going to introduce both of ourselves. But I'm DeVon Jackson. I work for student development. I've been here I'm in my fourth year of working here. My official kind of things is coordinator student engagement. So I get the students engaged in many things. To being diversity education or diversity initiatives that come out of our office, and also volunteering aspects. So Raise the Sunshine, and then maybe some once and dones that we would do during the week. Graduated from Villanova, got my communication degree in 2000, and I received my master's in counseling in 2003. So I'm pursuing a doctorate degree while I'm applying to get my doctorate. I don't know whether it's going to be in psychology or higher education, because somebody presented something to me that made me say, So that's me. Prior to this, I kind of did some work, although I didn't work in the Center for Multicultural Affairs. When I was here as a student, I did a whole lot of kind of outreach to students here and off campus. So kind of a lot of the stuff I do is rooted in kind of work for the Center for Multicultural Affairs, and Dr. Nance, who is the chair, who's the director of the Center for Multicultural Affairs. She's my mentor when I was here. She was my advisor. So I like to say sometimes I'm one of her minions. She's doing work for her when she doesn't even know it. But so that's me. I want to welcome you guys for being here. And Mr. Galloway is going to introduce himself.
Yeah, I just want to introduce myself as well. My name is Brian Galloway. I'm one of the assistant directors of admission here at Villanova. I've been here as an assistant director of admission this is my 6th year in the admission office. So many of you who are here, there's a good chance I could have seen your application come through the door, could have read the file. Again, there's a lot of us in the office there, but it's kind of nice because it's rare that I get to interact with the students whose applications I read and made decisions on, so it's nice to see some of you here today. I was a student at Villanova as well. I came from South Florida in 2001 and got to Villanova in 2001, spent 4 years here, finished a degree in communication, just like DeVon. We had some of the same mentors and friends and family in the communication office. And then when I arrived back at Villanova in 2006 to start working here, I finished up a master's degree in strategic communication in 2009. And I think this is a session that I had done a couple of years ago in this same Freedom School program with another colleague from the admission office. I think it's something, and Nick can speak to it. Nick's dad is my boss, by the way, so I got to be on my best behavior. That's why I wore the tie. That's why I look like a boss. But what's important, not only at Villanova, but I think as I started to learn about college admissions in general, it's staggering how quickly you realize who gets this opportunity, who doesn't get this opportunity, why do those sorts of things happen. And as I was new in the field and starting to meet with different people and then kind of moving through different conferences, sitting in on sessions, I was really kind of struck by this. Now, what I can say for Villanova is we do a pretty good job. Are we the best in the business? No. But are we getting there? Absolutely. And I think that through my boss and bosses that work here at the university, this is really an important issue, something that we all are curious about and concerned about and trying to make it a better question. Mm-hmm. What we want to do today is kind of address it to all of you and kind of have you all think about it, talk about it, and discuss it as you see it. As you see access to higher education, as you saw your own access to Villanova, as you see some other colleagues that you went to high school with and their access to other institutions, and perhaps how you see, or maybe you don't even notice, those who may not have certain access or opportunities that you have at Villanova. So we wanted to start with just a couple of questions just to get you all thinking about access, about higher education. This abstract, if you have the thing from here, discusses that the College Board each year releases a report on access in higher education, and the fact that the bachelor's degree is still the fastest way to the middle class. It's the most secure way to a good job with a good opportunity. And if that's the case, who gets that opportunity? So I wanted to ask, one of the first questions we ask, and this is a group of students whom I mostly deal with, raise your hand. Oh, and by the way, I don't think DeVon mentioned, I haven't mentioned yet either, but this is a safe zone, obviously. Yes. Anything anybody says is here in this room, and no one should feel guilty or upset or uncomfortable. we want that discomfort level.
Right.
We want you to find that area where you're just not quite comfortable enough so that you really start to discuss and share things that are, you know, a little bit deeper than perhaps the surface issues. So the first question I want to ask, I want you all to be honest and raise your hand, is for how many of you was college a given? I mean, it was not a question of whether you were going to college or not. It was a question of where you were going to go off to college. And that's everybody. Okay? So everybody in this room, you were going to college. It was just a question of where you were going to go. How many of your parents hold a bachelor's degree? How about first just one parent holds a bachelor's degree in this room? So how many of you do both of your parents hold bachelor's degrees? Okay. So is that everybody that either one or two parents hold a bachelor's degree? How many of them hold advanced degrees, master's degrees, law degree, doctorate degrees? So we've got a good number of students here also whose parents hold advanced degrees. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, and I guess the answer is no, it doesn't seem like anyone in here. Is anyone in here their first in their family to go off to college? The first generation student?
Immediate family, yes.
Immediate family, yeah, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and stuff. So you're the first student in the family to go off to college. And everyone else has to have a degree and such. I think there's some statistics about education in the U.S. that will surprise you, because this is exactly what DeVon and I talk about. I mean, he's got his master's degree, I have my master's degree. All of our colleagues here have bachelor's degrees. Many of them have master's degrees. Many of our friends have law degrees and doctorate degrees. And when you're running in this little circle, it seems a little bit weird sometimes when you see some of the staggering statistics. So in terms of, can anyone just guess a percentage of people in the United States who hold a bachelor's degree from age 25 to 65? How many people? You want to guess, Nick?
I would say good 40%.
40%? Okay. Anybody else want to guess? Yeah. 20%? Okay. Anybody else want to take a guess? See how many students hold bachelor's degrees? Or how many folks?
I would say like 30, 35.
30 to 35%. All right. The actual number, how many students, or how many people in the United States, 25 to 64, hold a bachelor's degree? It's pretty surprising. It's 18.8% of those, the group in the United States between that age, who hold a bachelor's degree. So we're talking about me and DeVon and Terry Nance and your professors and your advisors, all the students that you're surrounded by who are pursuing bachelor's degrees or going to someday be graduates and perhaps going to law school and grad school. And then when you step out, it's only 1.8 out of every 10. So what do we have in here? We have just a little more than 10, like maybe 1.8 of you, or 2 of you would have a bachelor's degree. It's kind of staggering. It's kind of surprising. Considering what we talked about earlier, the bachelor's degree is the fastest way to the middle class. Another question is, now we talked about advanced degrees, and a lot of the families and students here, and a lot of the folks with whom we interact. Anyone want to take a guess now that you know 18.8% hold bachelor's degrees? What percentage of the same population hold an advanced degree, master's degree, law degree, medical degree? Take a guess.
15.9.
15.9. Very specific, Nick.
Very.
Anybody else?
1%.
What?
1%.
1%?
I was going to say 30.
3%? Okay. It's actually a little better than that, but it's still pretty low. It's 10.4%. 10.4% of the population age 25 to 64 holds an advanced degree. So again, we're rolling in this circle. We're running in these circles that are very unlike the rest of the country. And sometimes I'm guilty of it too. I am surprised when I meet someone who has not gone off to college. Or I don't understand why someone didn't go off to college. You know, I meet someone who didn't go off to college and, well, you know, I'm just like, what, you didn't? Why didn't you do that? I mean, that seems silly. And then we realize that it's only 1 out of every 10, so just maybe 1 and a little bit more than that out of every 10 in this room would have an advanced degree, and another 2 would have gone off to get their bachelor's degree. So it's kind of surprising. Before we get started with a little activity that'll help some discussion, I kind of wanted just to show how some families, some students plan for their higher education opportunities. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. This is what I wanted to share, because this is the most staggering of all statistics, and this is what makes this discussion so important. The bachelor's degree is the fastest ticket to the middle class. It is an important opportunity for anybody. when you're talking about the average lifetime salary of someone who has a bachelor's degree versus a high school degree. When you look at the average salary of a high school graduate, over their lifetime, their working lifetime, they'll make $1.25 million. Sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But when you get it in $1,000 or $2,000 increments every month, and you're paying
Right.
you're paying it out to get some groceries and your rent and stuff, it goes pretty fast. If you have a bachelor's degree, the number more than doubles to $2.38 million, a difference of $1.13 million. So when you're talking about opportunity and access, and you're talking about how important the bachelor's degree is to being a successful person and to allowing opportunity for your family and for your family's family, this is what's important to talk about. The fact that there is a discrepancy in what certain people earn. And if this is the case, if there is this big of a difference, then who gets that that extra $1.13 million? Does everyone get that $1.13 million as long as you go to college? Or do you have to go to college to get it? And if you have to go to college, how do you get to college? And so that's what we really wanted to discuss.
Another thing to point out is we're talking about access. So it's in between the high school and bachelor's degree that we're kind of going to focus on. What's going on in here? Because, some people just don't want to go to college. Some people, want to do a trade, so it's their fault. Some people say, oh, it's their fault. Is it really their fault? So that's we're talking about the in between high school and bachelor or bachelor and advanced degree. So that's what we're talking about. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about some of these statistics and numbers as you see.
Absolutely. And so, like I just mentioned, we wanted to share just real quickly to potentially illustrate just a little bit of this. This is a clip, a very brief clip from a movie called Waiting for Superman. Has everybody seen it here today? Some people have seen it, some people haven't. It's just mostly focused on the state of public education, high school education that is, and grade school education in the United States. But what it shows is that starting very, very young, certain students get set on certain tracks, and it's very hard to move the train from one track to the other. A very brief clip that might share a little bit before we discuss further.
I want to go to a medical college or a veterinarian college to study about people and animals. Because I really want to become a surgeon.
Daisy's path to medical school begins with 8th grade algebra, which she'll need to take when she moves up to Stevenson Middle School. By the time she leaves Stevenson, only 13% of her classmates will be proficient in math.
I might go to Stevenson. My sister goes there and she says it's really fun. Just that people make a big drama about it.
Stevenson feeds into Roosevelt, one of the worst performing high schools in Los Angeles.
The way that California public university system is set up is there's a set of 15 courses called the A through G that you have to meet in order to be accepted into a four-year university.
Only 3 out of 100 students at Roosevelt will graduate with the classes necessary for admission to a four-year university. And 57% of Daisy's classmates won't graduate.
I mean, that was just a minute long. But you're talking about 3 out of 100 students from her high school graduating with the requirements necessary. You're talking about the fact that by the time she leaves her middle school, only 13% of her class will be proficient enough in math to be doing high school level work. So I think we constantly want to keep asking the question, is this access that we're talking about to higher education someone's choice? Or is this really a question that we should be asking, a broader question that we should be asking about ourselves?
Who did not see this movie? Well, let me just say this. I implore you guys to actually go see this movie. Or not see it, but just rent it. Not go see it, but rent it. Or Netflix if you have it, because it's amazing at the stuff you hear. It's amazing the stuff you hear. Now, we kind of want to push forward. Let me help you with that. All right? Want to push forward with and give you guys it's a nice little activity. It's called the I Am From Home. What's going to happen is we're just going to talk about, we're just going to find out our own, I guess, position when it comes to, access and things of that nature. So we just want to get to know everyone. So what you're going to do is just fill this out, and then we're going to have some people say what they want. I mean, we have enough people where we can get a good number. So just going to fill this out and answer the specific questions of where you come from, okay? This is the first kind of small activity we're going to do. And we're going to give you guys maybe 7 minutes to do so, okay? You guys can, I like to keep time, so. We wanted to do an activity to kind of, again, to get to know you guys and you guys to know yourselves and where we stand. So in regards to this word access, we just like to, I like to find out where people are because it allows them to invest more in the conversation. So this is one activity that we decided to go with to get that information out. So anyone want to share or begin to share where they're from and what they're about? Who? Go ahead.
I'm from TVs, laptops, iPods, cell phones, and books. I'm from trees, driveways, chirping birds, walking dogs, and kids playing outside. I'm from fruit, bread, juice, rice, pasta, and vegetables. I'm from always try your best, never give up, life isn't always fair, enjoy and have fun. I am from teachers, coaches, Natalie, Anthony, and my parents.
Awesome. You want to go?
You want to share?
Sure.
I'm from television,
Television.
computers. I'm from, and I have terrible handwriting, but a double-line road with horns in a busy town. I'm from meatballs and gravy and burgers. I'm from, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. From, you want to repeat those?
Coach, Coach Verna, Coach Peretta, John Clay, Dad, women's basketball team, and my high school in Charleston.
Awesome.
You can't read my handwriting.
Can I get 2 more?
Okay.
1, 2.
I'm from TVs, furnitures, computers. I'm from birds, deer, cars, sun, fences, and grass. I am from hot dogs, burgers, and grilled chicken. I am from work hard, play hard. I am from team members, teachers, and parents.
Okay.
I'm from plenty of food and clothing, television tuned to the news, and computers. I'm from farms, fresh hay, cow manure, gas drilling, and very few houses, and gunshots, but from hunting, not from violence. I'm from fish, lasagna, pasta, and anything with olive oil. I'm from try your hardest, don't take all we've given you for granted, 6 figures, don't settle for anything less, and if you aren't happy, it's not worth it. And I'm from Anthony Trevada.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I'm from corner stores, neighborhood parks, small businesses. I'm from George Washington Bridge, the cloisters, pollution. I'm from rice, beans, baked chicken, empanadas, pastelitos, pasteles enormes. I am from Kane. Where's your brother Abel? And I'm from Mar Fernandez. And Aleida Borbon.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm from art, drafting tables, plants, blankets, natural light, and blocks. I'm from construction, big trees, mini vehicles, and music. I'm from spaghetti, homemade cake, and salads. I'm from This Too Shall Pass. I'm from Steph and John and Dan Hannes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so I want you guys to think about some of the things you heard. Some folks said they're from iPods, iPads. It's amazing because that wasn't around when I was born.
Wasn't around when I was a cop.
Computers. I'm from, gunshots, but not from violence, but from hunting. I'm from the type of foods that we eat, and I'm from, just so many different things. I want you to think about those things as we move forward into the presentation. I want you guys to think about where you're from and the word access. Okay, keep that word in mind. That word access.
Yeah, where you're from and how.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It can. No, not at all. Where you're from and how it can affect access as well. I think that's important. But I just wanted to show a brief clip about. I mean, we talked about the one student who and her really brief path if she wanted to make it not just to a 4-year college but then on to medical school and what it's going to take. We just have, again, from the same film, and again, we really think you all should watch it at some point. If you all have Netflix, it's right on there. But to watch just a real brief explanation of the public school system in the United States and how it relates to, again, access to higher ed. This whole time, like DeVon said, we want to talk about that little spot between the lines, between what a high school degree is and a bachelor's degree is.
Have you taken it beyond the school?
No.
You should.
Full screen.
Sorry.
If you want a better school for your kid, it's all about options. But the system is confusing. Let's say you live in a district with 100 public schools. Most are like Francisco's. Not terrible, but not great. A fifth will be failing, and more will be hovering between mediocre and failing. There's usually one mainstream school that's defying the odds. With a great principal and outstanding teachers, it can produce amazing results. But you can't go there unless you live in that neighborhood. So for years, unless you could afford a private school, you were stuck with your neighborhood school. In the 1960s, magnet schools were formed. These were district-run schools to give families another choice. Some were for job training, some were for the arts, and some were for academics. But there aren't that many magnets, and they're very difficult to get into. In the 90s, public charter schools emerged. They are independent from the district, but open to anyone who lived there. But only 1 in 5 charters is producing amazing results. And so the numbers of families applying there are usually very high. So a parent like Maria has to work hard to find a great school for her kid. She takes a 45-minute subway ride across the Harlem River to look at a charter school.
One of the things that we really put a lot of emphasis on this past year is reading comprehension. So not just can they read the words on the page with fluency, it's do they really understand what they're reading?
So is the difference between this school down here and Harlem Success that great?
Yes. It's 2 different worlds.
One Sunday morning, the warm sun came up and pop! Out of the egg came a tiny
Every student who's behind in reading is assigned a tutor and has one until they're caught up.
How many books do you think you're gonna read by the end of the school, by the time school finishes? Probably like the same amount that I read last year, which was what? 105. Wow, really?
I don't care if we have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning in order to get there by 7:45, then that's what we will do.
And do you start this at 3rd grade or do you start it from kindergarten?
Kindergarten? Wow. So that by the time they get to 3rd, this is easy for them. Yeah.
So if Francisco doesn't get in, is there another chance?
No, because he'll be going into 2nd grade. And most schools, they only take kindergarten, 1st and 2nd. So this is Francisco's last chance.
Our birthday is in June.
Harlem Success will take 40 second graders, with 792 families applying.
Now, can anyone tell us what a picnic is?
A picnic is where you go out in the country and eat food off the dirt.
Up until the 1970s, American public schools were the best in the world.
Bob, you've been keeping your grades up. Good.
The image of public schools in our films and TV reflects an ideal that even if you're unlucky enough to be born in the wrong neighborhood, education could be a ticket out.
Mr. Vincent Barbarino, I don't see any homework. Alright, so I didn't do my homework. So excuse me for living.
Public school was not an ordeal we had to survive, but rather the single most important formative experience in our lives. Since 1900, U.S. public schools have produced more than 100 Nobel laureates, 10 presidents, and countless numbers of great Americans.
Americans were really leading the world in educating its young people because we had sort of this free education system, and it was halfway decent.
I mean, that was a little bit of a longer clip, but I hope that it illustrates a couple of different things. One, that we had originally built a system that was built on access for everyone. But what's happened to it now is what was the earlier part of it, and that's where you see 792 people competing for 40 slots. And some of the statistics in the film later and earlier show you that for a student who doesn't get one of those 40 slots, the odds of them going off to college are incredibly slim. For a student who gets one of those 40 slots, it's almost 100% that they will go off to a 4-year undergraduate university. So we're talking about lottery balls here. And of course, at the end, maybe we'll show you a clip of just lottery balls spinning in a hopper. And at all of these schools, there are families who don't have good options, just putting all their hopes into this lottery ball. And again, I think that this should at least physically illustrate for you the question of access and the importance of at least thinking about it in your own lives, where you are now and where others are. So,
I told Brian my favorite part is when the lady was walking up the hill on the animation and the fence built around her. It's my favorite part because it's such reality. And in saying that, what did you guys think about that clip? What are some of your responses? And remember, this is interactive, so we're not going to be talking much longer. We want you guys to talk and begin to give us some opinion, give us some perspective, give us something. So what do you guys think about what you have seen so far, in particular to the clip you just saw? What is our response? Yeah.
It actually really upsets me. I feel like very guilty right now, actually, because I went to public school, but I went to like a great public school. So I kind of have like that image in my mind that all public school systems are like that. But like it's always on the back burner that they're not. And I mean, it's just not fair. And it's terrible. Like, even with that, like, how do you pick 40 kids out of 792?
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
It was interesting how they showed the progression, like in public schools and magnet schools and charter schools, yet you still have like such a problem with so few kids having good choices.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
I kind of like what she was saying makes you feel guilty and you feel really bad because they're like poor little kids are like 6 years old and it's not their fault of where they grew up or where we grew up, and they couldn't have a bearing on who they were born to or where they were born.
Mm-hmm.
So it just sucks.
And it's funny because out of those 40 students, out of the 792, 40 are going to get taken. And some of those 40 will fall through the cracks as well. Like, they're not automatically, I mean, it have a better chance than before, but, some still may fall in the cracks. But the fence part is, it just speaks to a whole lot. It makes me think about, I have a 2-year-old at home. And, I'm thinking about that education and what he's going to do when he's in that position. But I don't think about it on that sense. I also think about it because of the line of work I do for students. And, I work around young people all the time, every day almost. So even, in outside work, I do some stuff with young people. So I'm always thinking of words like access and words like privilege and words like opportunity and stuff like that. And to see that fence being built around a person trying to walk and reach out for opportunity, it makes me mad. Because it just talks about or speaks on those systems that are in place that keep things the way they are. You understand what I'm saying? So, given that, we're going to do another activity, a little bit more action than before. But you can turn over your I Am Poem paper, and what you're going to do is, if the question applies to you, put a tally mark. Yeah. Because we're going to usually do, it's called a privilege walk, so you usually get up and actually walk, but we're going to do it a different way because of the size of the room. So, actually there's some questions that may apply to you. So what you're going to do is, yeah, put a tally mark. Okay? All right, so if you ready? Everyone ready? So if you grew up with enough food to eat, put a tally mark down. It says step forward, but put a tally mark down.
Should we take a tally mark away
Yeah.
for the other ones?
Yeah, right. So, right. So if I say step forward, put a tally mark down. If I say take a step back, take a tally mark off. Or just don't put one if you don't have any. You get what I'm saying? So let's start over. If you grew up with enough food to eat, take one step forward. Put a tally mark down. If your family, primary caregivers, experienced a downward financial reversal, take one step backwards. Take a tally mark off. If you don't have any tally marks, put a negative, I guess. Just put a negative tally mark, okay?
Sorry, if your family what?
I'll read it again. If your family or primary caregivers experience one downward financial reversal, take a step backwards. Meaning like if you weren't making any money, and you were kind of putting out more money than you were receiving. More bills than you do have money. Take one step backwards. If there was ever something you really wanted to do, but primary caregivers couldn't afford it, camps, dance lessons, vacation, club memberships, gymnastics, take one step backwards. So if something you want to do, but your family couldn't afford it, take a step backwards. Or put a negative tally mark. If you got your own car when you became of legal driving age or in high school, take one step forward. If you got your own car when you became of legal driving age or in high school, take one step forward. If you went to private school, take one step forward. If you have been assumed to be good at math because your race or gender, take a step forward. If you were presumed to be good at math because of your race or gender, take one step forward. If your primary caregivers had difficulty making ends meet, take one step backward. Your primary caregivers had a difficulty making ends meet, take one step backwards. If your primary caregivers own their home, take one step forward. If your primary caregiver owns their home, take one step forward. If you had to work in high school to help pay for expenses, take one step backwards. Expenses meaning like your transportation, expenses like maybe you needed to help pay bills at the house, expenses meaning lunch, stuff like that. If growing up, your primary caregiver's family ever received food stamps or public assistance, take one step backwards. If growing up, your primary caregiver's family ever received food stamps or public assistance, take one step backwards. If growing up, the utilities, gas, electric, phone, were turned off because of an inability to pay bills, take one step backwards. So if you could not pay your bills, your utility bills, take one step backwards. If one or both of your primary caregivers have a college degree, take one step forward. If you feel that others think you fit the profile, oh no, forget one. If you feel comfortable, no. If you ever lived in a neighborhood where people could make a living through prostitution, pimping, or drug dealing, take one step backwards. If you ever lived in a neighborhood where all that stuff was popular and can make money off of it, take one step backwards. If as a child you were taken to plays, museums, the ballet, or culture or other cultural events, take one step forward. It doesn't have to just be them, but anything. If your family always expected you to go to college, take one step forward. If you need to work during the school year to cover the cost of living and going to school, take one step backwards. If you had a credit card that your parents paid for, take one step forward. If you grew up with enough food to eat, take one step. I asked that already, didn't I? If you grew up in a single parent home, take one step backwards. If your parents sent you to test prep classes after school to prepare for the SAT or ACT, take one step forward. If you had to work 20 hours a week to help pay your family bills, and you will have to work at least 20 hours a week in college to afford your education, take one step backwards. If your parents were able to afford to send you to the best private school in your area, take one step forward. Even if you didn't go, they had the opportunity or ability to do that. Take one step forward. We'll put a time on it. If your parents entered you into a lottery for one of the 50 slots at the top achieving charter school in the area where 100% of the graduates will go to a four-year college of their choice, take one step forward. You guys get that? Keep going.
Yeah. And if they entered you in the lottery and your name was called.
Oh, yes, next one. Okay. So if they entered you in the lottery and your name was called, take one step forward. If you attended a city public school with a 40% graduation rate and overcrowded classrooms, take one step backwards. Okay. Can you total your tally marks, please? You know, circle them in. So if there was a lot of taking steps backwards, you maybe want to have like a negative something. If there was a lot of forwards, of course, you know, so tally them up. So now we're going to ask what they are. Starting with you. How many you have?
I have 5. Mine's a really strange situation because my parents were divorced and my father, wealthy, the one that had the career, and my mother got support but was extremely frivolous.
Okay.
So there was no point where I was underprivileged, but I was taking a lot of steps backwards because of my mom's responsibility, which is very different than I think being in a bad social situation. You know?
I'm at a -9. 4.
Plus 4. You had a plus 4, right?
Right.
Us, it's 4. 4.
Maybe 10.
So this is what I like to do. I like to always start up a conversation by what's called popcorn. I'm going to go around and ask you how you feel about now. Like, how are you feeling right now? So the word that comes to your brain is what? Ready? Yeah. How you feel?
Blessed and guilty.
Blessed and guilty.
Fortunate.
Fortunate.
Fortunate, fortunate and come back to me, please.
It doesn't have to be 2. It can be 1.
Fortunate and
It doesn't have to be 2.
fortunate and
We'll come back.
all right.
Concern.
Concern. Guilty.
Privilege and guilty.
Lucky.
Lucky.
Surprised.
Surprised. You said fortunate.
Upset.
Upset.
I say fortunate and empowered.
Empowered. Who cares to elaborate?
I say fortunate and empowered because, like, I have some negatives in my life, but at the same time, like, somebody from Villanova, Dr. Doherty, he saw something in me. So he was able to give me an opportunity to come here, as well as other people at the admissions office. And I say empowered because, like, I don't feel bad for myself that I have negatives in my life.
Right.
Like, I feel like if you're able to take the negative and turn it into something positive, then, you know, like, there's no need to, you know, feel bad for yourself.
Okay.
So, that's about it.
Anybody else? I'm gonna call you in a second. How about yourself? Your word was
My word was what? Oh, concern.
concerned. Why?
Yeah, it's just a negative, nine, this is kind of a lot of negatives. But I guess growing up, I never knew that we didn't have money because my parents did a really good job of like pretending that we did. I remember like being in the store and throwing a hissy fit tantrum because all I wanted was Captain Crunch cereal, but like with food stamps only allowed for Cheerios. And like the only thing I wanted was Captain Crunch, but that was literally like the only days that I remember feeling like, why can't I have what I want? And yet I kind of similarly, like I do feel extremely blessed that I would never look back on my childhood thinking, oh man, like there's so much that I didn't have. Because my family, all we did was laugh together. And because of what I learned, because I grew up in a humble household, I learned a lot about appreciation, and I learned a lot about gratitude, and I learned a lot about simple things, about appreciating simple things. And those are lessons that I've actually just wrote a note to my mom and dad the other day saying, I'm so grateful for the way that you raised me, because there are a lot of things I see, especially on this very privileged campus, that kind of made me sick to my stomach. But knowing that,
I'm sorry.
knowing that from where I came, I feel overwhelmingly blessed on a daily basis.
There were a lot of you who had said guilty. Anyone want to share that? Yeah.
My family is an immigrant family that struggled when they got to America, but ended up doing very well. But I had no part in that. I did not contribute to my family's legacy and how they can afford to send my cousins and I to college. So I feel guilty in the sense that I have a very unearned, special, like white privilege, as it's called, because of my family situation, my socioeconomic situation. And though I'm appreciative of everything I have, it's easy, and even though it's not a good thing to feel as guilty, because it's kind of a useless way to be, is I understand that I didn't work as hard as a lot of people did to get here.
Okay, interesting.
All right.
I mean, I'll just speak to that just from the experience that I've had over the last 10 years sort of being part of this community, but didn't work that hard to get here. And that was something when DeVon and I kind of sat down and started outlining this. A lot of it was a question of hard work, right? If you work hard, you get places. That's what we believe, and that's what's central to this American experience, is that if you work hard and you're an immigrant family, you will get whatever you deserve. You will get as much as you give in. And I think that we kind of wanted, in fact, in the abstract, it's talking about hard work. So I don't want to say that there are students here who, don't work hard and get here even so, but I think that to say that you didn't work hard and still have this opportunity doesn't address that there is a lot of access on this campus, as was addressed earlier, and a lot of opportunity. And it shouldn't be, I don't think anyone should feel guilty. And that's what one of the last things that we wrote down was, we don't want anyone to feel guilty about what they have and where they are here. Really, we want you to look at what others don't have. And if you used to say, like I did, why didn't they go to college? That was a dumb move. Yeah, no wonder they're working here doing this or that. It's because they didn't go to college. If you used to say something like that, or if you used to think something like that, hopefully a session like this might put into perspective why certain students don't have the access or the opportunity. And that oftentimes I say, to whom much is given, much is expected.
I think it's also really important that instead of focusing on this like guilty feeling about everything that we have, it's important to figure out like how you're able, what you're able to do with those resources, how you're able to instill change, how you're able to affect systemic change like at a more groundbreaking level. Not so much like sit and wallow in it like, oh, I have so much and so many people have nothing. Well, use your voice then, like do something about it. That's really important.
I can definitely speak to that. Well, before, 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 you know, before this, there was a lot, before me and Frankie, there was probably less people that, I mean, there was a lot of people with disabilities here, but I'm saying that, that they weren't, as, I don't know, as, you know, they didn't have, like, a movie made about them, they didn't have, like,
They weren't as forward as they are now.
right, as far as, like, getting out there and doing it, like,
Yeah, visible.
being,
Visible, great word.
being seen, that's my point. And, I would just like to say, like, you know, if you assume things, stuff will, if you put people in a category, you don't, because they're, if not smarter than you, more smart, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
The word access, it says, what does access to higher education look like? Now, that's not just, we're not just talking about, of course, higher education, just the word access in general. I know a lot of folks felt guilty, like you were saying how you thought every high school was like your high school. But, of course, that's not the case. I thought, I was the same way. I went to Archbishop Carroll, which is down the road, and I had a great time, Catholic school. I thought every Catholic high school was like that. That's not even the case. So, yeah, Brian said it best. We don't want you to feel guilty. However, we do want you to understand your position in the idea of privilege and help you understand to don't experience the idea of privilege at someone else's expense or at someone else's lack of privilege. You get what I'm saying? Think about access. Think about who has access to stuff. Think about what you can do to give them access. You know what I think about all the time? And I just learned this stat. 61% of African Americans, African American employees on this campus work in service-oriented jobs, custodians, dining services, all that. That's an overwhelming stat to me because I'm an African American, black. So it's like, wow, okay. Now I'm thinking, why is that? You hear what I'm saying? Why is it a very high number, 61%? Why? Like, what's going on with that? Access has a lot to do with it. You go into any dining services, any room, or basically the person that's cleaning is most likely a person of color. Why is that? Is it because they chose to do that? Is that because they didn't have access to anything else? Is it because they don't have an education, so all they can do is clean? Is it because they love to cook? What is the reason? Why is it that way? Am I the only person thinking about that? I just want to know that. That's all. Now, not to say that, I don't mean to say that in a sense of, I'm mad at everyone else who doesn't have one. I'm just trying to understand the reason for those things, that access. I have people that are trying to, we have talked with some of my students about being prepared to do calculus. Well, and you probably can speak to this as well, being in admissions. There's a lot of students that aren't ready for calculus when they come here because their high school didn't prepare them for it. I have some people say, yeah, I wasn't ready for Villanova. Because I asked some of the freshmen, how was your first semester? It was okay. Well, why okay? Because my high school just didn't prepare me for this. Well, how come? Don't you think every high school should know about what every college, or pretty much every college, is about so they can prepare their student to come to a college? Like, it's nothing like sending somebody away and saying, all right, thanks, and then that's it. Like, we should be preparing, the state of address that President Obama talked about last night. He said, he and I might mess it up, so if you know it, you can help me out. But I remember him saying something like, we should change it whereas people should stay in high school until they're 18. He said something like that. Like, you shouldn't kick them out. They should stay there until they're 18. Okay. I forget the point of why I brought that up. What was my point? I forget my point. But anyway, I forget my point. Man. Oh, it's preparing them to, don't just send them out just to do anything. Prepare them to give them something. Give them something.
Well, I mean, I think if higher education is so valuable, if it's worth $1.13 million over your lifetime, more than someone who doesn't have it, then it is so valuable that it should be accessible by all those who work the hardest. And that's, again, what we want to believe. When we see the fact that despite how hard someone works, if they're in a school that's underperforming, if they're at a place that doesn't have that sort of ability to teach them, then we have, serious issues with access. Nick?
Right. Does that come into your decisions as far as like admitting people?
That's actually a really good question, and something that I'd like to get everyone's opinion on.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Well, it was sort of about who has access and how, say, for example, since I can speak to it, Villanova, but other schools consider admission and students. And I think maybe the best way to describe that would be affirmative action, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of opportunity or equal opportunity through affirmative action processes. When I get a chance, and DeVon does the same thing, I think you facilitate the diversity skit, right? The discussion
Mm-hmm.
afterward during orientation.
Mm-hmm.
We have three freshmen, right, lined up, sophomores, some juniors, some seniors, but folks who've gone through the orientation process. Remember the diversity skit. Nick was talking about being in it maybe next year.
Yeah.
We have that discussion. I ask students that. I say, is it okay with you if a student gets into a certain college, it doesn't have to be Villanova, and they have lower SAT scores than you, and they have lower GPA than you, but they get into the same school as you? Anyone have a problem with that? Is there something fundamentally wrong with that? Is there a question that you guys have about that you want to talk about? Yeah.
I have a question, because I don't really understand affirmative action completely. Is it based on socioeconomic status, or is it based on race?
Excellent question.
From what I remember, it's based on both. But when it was first put into law, it was based on race, because affirmative action was enacted during the civil rights movement.
Yeah. Usually, especially when cases that discrimination is come into play, that's when affirmative action comes into play. Here's a question. Which social construct, who benefits from affirmative action? Yes.
Everyone.
Do they?
Because affirmative action is in Villanova accepted all students who came from high schools with great access. Then without the diversity of our student body, we wouldn't be getting the type of education that we should get. We need all different types of people to be getting a well-rounded education. I benefit from having people from different places and different backgrounds being in the classroom with me.
Specifically with affirmative, oh, right, okay, so who uses it more? Yes.
I would say the university, because it looks good for the university, I guess, but if a student is not necessarily prepared for the school, then it might just end up hurting them personally.
Okay. The answer I was looking for is white women. Affirmative action benefits white women more than what other people think they do. I can send you the statistic on this. I have it in my computer, but so it's funny how people think affirmative action is just for people of color or international people or international students or things of that nature. But from what it started before, from the past, you said it started with race. So yes, I don't know if we answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I just always thought about that though, because I don't know, I just think that it partially being based on race isn't fair. I understand the socioeconomic part of it, because that makes sense to me, that it's not fair that I had all this time, I didn't have to work to help my family, I didn't have to worry about chronic stress of being in a lower SES group. So I understand that. I think that's 100% right. I understand wanting to be diverse, but that's just the one part of it. I'm just, I have trouble understanding it.
What's essential to realize, though, is why affirmative action is based on race is because the institutions of our nation are fundamentally driven to disadvantage people who are not white. So though it's easy to look at it and say, well, that's not fair because it's based on race, socioeconomic status in the general institutions are geared so much to privileged white people that it actually ends up still being unequal on non-white persons' accord.
I mean, I understand.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know.
No, I mean, it's a,
Well,
No,
no,
you're
just
not
like,
wrong,
'cause,
I'm
like,
just saying.
yeah, no, it's just like, cause some, like, I don't think it's fair that if you're a person of a different, like, if you're a person of color, and you come from, your parents are both doctors, you come from this great place, and like, you did have all the time to do the work, and like, you're going to a school, whereas like someone who is, for instance, white and poorer, like, would have a lesser chance to go to that school, because they had more stuff to deal with, I guess, if that makes any sense.
It definitely does. I think there's a couple of things that are presumed in there that aren't always the case. One is that African American student wouldn't academically qualify. So that's one question that you shouldn't we shouldn't ask that just because they're a student of color and their parents are doctors, they may have academically qualified for the institution on their own without exactly. But in full disclosure, you're absolutely correct in that it is a priority not just for Villanova but for all institutions of higher ed practically to ensure a more realistic student body to the rest of the world. Nick?
Just a question. Wait, I've always wondered this. How many of people in my situation are going to the Harvards, the Notre Dames? Could you find that stat out?
That's an answer I don't have.
If you got time, right?
You got it, man.
Yeah.
I'll get on.
That's an interesting question.
Researching it, but Nick's pointing out, another good point, which is to say access is more than just the color of a student's skin or where they come from. So I think that's also important to think about as well.
Where you guys stand, and another reason why we wanted to talk about, I guess, the ending is just how, and Lauren spoke to this. What do you do with the access that you do have? And again, it's not just enjoying your privilege, but it's either we all can be privileged or none of us will be privileged. So how do we do that? How do we balance that out? Do we just get rid of what we have so that no one has anything, or do we just share what we have so that everyone's have so that everyone has something? So I guess leaving, it's always good to think about what access you have and how you use it to help the person that doesn't have access. Help those students that don't have the opportunity to understand their SATs. Help a student be more efficient in reading. One of the things that Villanova does, which is great, we do a college day, college weekend. So they bring students that may not have an opportunity to get off campus to come live on campus for a weekend, and we do things like SAT prep, ACT prep. We have a panel of students to talk to them about what it means to be in college. We have them meet with admissions counselors so they can understand what to look for on what's expected on their application, how the essay is supposed to be. So it's almost like going to an open house, but we want you to come. We open up our house so that you can come. But it's not, hey, do this. We actually go and reach out. Hey, we're having this. Come do this. So, that's the access we have. We're trying to give other people's access. So think about that word access and how you have it, how it relates to you, and how you're going to share what access you have.
Yeah, and think about all the programs that we have with the City of Philadelphia where we
Right.
send students into charter schools and into a number of different programs. Some of you may already be involved in them. Some of you may be interested in getting involved. Yeah.
I know I tutor at School of the Future.
Yeah.
That is, I did last semester. And one of the things that really struck me was, one, they're trying to help break that cycle that students have, and they're trying to help with like college admissions, making sure kids, they make them apply to at least 2 colleges and like make sure they get all their paperwork done. And when they were doing their FAFSA, they were talking to students about making sure that you have a good relationship with your parents when you're filling out that form, because you need your parents in order to go to college pretty much and get financial aid. And the teacher was saying that every single year he has somebody that's fighting with their parents at that time, and the parents say, I refuse to fill out the form, and because of that, they can't go to college. And it's just crazy that parents sometimes will even put their kid through that and ruin their future. over something so trivial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I don't know. I know it's I guess way past. So I don't know if you guys
Oh,
want
really?
to. Any last minute
Sorry, I
thoughts,
thought we were
questions,
on
concerns?
15.
I want to personally thank you, I guess, for coming, taking the time to sit and talk with us, and just understand the ideas of access, and listen to our stats and all the other things. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Brian?
Sorry, I actually thought we had an hour and 15, so that was my fault. Sorry about that.
Oh,
But
we do?
Wait, we don't?
We don't?
Oh,
The next session.
okay. Then we didn't go over. We just
did?
we're right there.
Oh,
That's
right
perfect.
there. Okay. Sorry. What time we start? Oh, yes. Okay,
11:30. All right.
You want to see this last clip?
Oh.
I know we wanted to show them that, right?
Yeah, just go towards the end, like
All right.
just about like.
Did you the timing or?
How
I think it
about
was I think this might be it.
like? It's just at the end. Just go.
Here, I've assigned every student a lottery ID number. And you have a one preference if you live in district.
The film follows like 6 or 7 different students, and at the end, it just goes from lotto to lotto, showing them calling out these students in random order.
Put your fingers. I got a good feeling about this.
So
You see the hopes and
Harvard Law, which
I got a good feeling about it.
requires that if you
And that's all
have
they got.
more applications for a grade in your school, then you
The
have
one
spaces
lady with the
available.
little girl,
And
she
that's called a
her
random
problem,
public
her
poll.
situation was
You must
she
conduct a
couldn't pay the tuition,
random selection. You see the
and
kids
her
up
job
there,
wasn't paying
random
enough,
selection. You all have your
so they had to
numbers,
pull
right?
her daughter out of school. She was in eighth grade, I think.
graduating from 8th grade, they wouldn't let her graduate.
They wouldn't let her graduate, and it was like 2 days before graduation. She couldn't pay tuition, so they pulled her out. She couldn't experience. She lived across the street from her school, and she watched her students. She watched her classmates walk out with caps and gowns and stuff like that.
Start with the kindergartners and first and
But I think, I mean, you don't have to watch 20 minutes of lottery balls falling to sort of recognize that it's awfully cruel to put the chance to go to college, the chance to earn $1.13 million more over a lifetime, the chance to send your students and children to college, to put it all on a lottery ball.
Right. These are the spaces available. And these are the 6 schools, the schools that are good in
Let's get
each
started.
area. So just listen to everything.
EV2015 accepted. EV2044 accepted.
Fregoso Andrew. Cabrera Alondra.
But yeah, I mean, I
This movie's talking about.
think
You
a
guys
lot of
get
the
it.
families who, they realize that
Arale Rich,
this might be their only chance.
Janaya Miller, Giselle Mitchell, Brittany Adams.
Yeah, I guess you don't need to see all of it, but for the most part,
You've got that, or you've got your neighborhood
That's it.
school.
I would really. I think it should be out in DVD soon. It was a documentary, so I would really watch it. Especially those that are in working education, doing things of that nature. I would
Yeah,
watch it.
for School of the Future. And
Thank
stuff.
you guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, thanks so much. Have a great day.